All right. Thanks everyone for coming for our first panel of the afternoon. And it's what a panel! What a great panel! We're gonna talk about the World Cup of cricket. The first thing, I think it's good if I ask you to one by one, very briefly introduce yourself and your role in your respective companies.
Okay. So, hi, good afternoon, and thank you for joining us. My name is Gajendra. I lead the technology and operations team for Disney Star India. We are into sports production technology. We are into entertainment, which is game shows, soaps, and we are also part of the infotainment genre, which is National Geographic. So we are the largest entertainment company in Asia, and happy to be on this panel.
Hi all, this is Rahul Manglik. I lead the sports technology for Disney Star India in India, and also I head the innovation center for Star Group in India.
Hi, everybody. So I'm Guillaume, and I'm a product line manager for live media solution at NVIDIA. So mostly about a platform for software defined for live broadcasters, but also helping driving our technology roadmap to adapt to media and entertainment needs.
Thank you, guys. I'm Florian, in charge of strategic partnerships at Mo-Sys. And we're going to deep dive into a solution that you guys use for the World Cup of crickets. And we're going to stay away to not make some feedback with. I think it's fine like that. But first of all, I would like to maybe ask you a question. When did you start using LED wall virtual production at Star? And also, what was maybe the challenges that you faced before, like since you started with that?
Yeah. So I'll take that and I'll pass it
Yeah,
on to
please.
Rahul to continue. But I think we dabbled into virtual production almost 10 years ago. We are very new into sports. We acquired the sports business from ESPN in Asia. And when we took over, we didn't want to continue in the same fashion that it was being done. So we moved into virtual production, and we've been dabbling it with green screen for a long time. We wanted to do some LED work. Uh, we always thought that virtual is the way forward, and we wanted to move out of hard sets and move more towards virtual reality. And then I think on the way we found a lot of challenges. Rahul will talk more about all the challenges that we saw. One of them was there are so many solutions in the market, but my ask was we need something which is efficient and effective, not something which is very, very extensive and probably not even deployable. So
Yeah, we started LED XR about 2.5 years back, actually. Like Gaju said, we are doing green screen for about 10 years, but LED started about 2.5 years back. Yeah.
Nice. And it's also, as you say, really interesting because we always had discussion like, what do you guys need, how we can work together. And you were one of the, thank you. We were one of the first to use this solution that we call MoViewer.
yeah.
And we will explain very briefly what it is, how it works, and also how NVIDIA collaborated with us and helped us to improve the AI pipeline on it. But first of all, I think we could maybe, Pedro, if we play a clip of the project first.
Yeah,
and,
sure.
So do you want to tell us a bit more about this project, maybe?
Yeah, Rahul, go.
Yeah. So, when we started talking about LED XR, we actually discussed with Michael about actually around the same time, IBC 2022, we actually discussed about it. And we were, trying to, at that point of time, trying to figure out few solutions from the market, which were available, as of now. But what we could see, actually, there are a lot of challenges in those XR solutions available. They were either needed duplicate hardware, expensive hardware, specific LEDs, specific LED controllers. So those were the challenges actually and the realities of that time in the market. Some of those challenges still remain. So we discussed, with Mo-Sys, we obviously have a long-term partnership. So we discussed with Michael. Actually, Michael came up with an idea of, because one of the biggest challenge in green screen versus LEDs XR production is that you can't have preview for all the cameras available. Like you have in green screen, you can't have it in LED, obviously because of the physical limitation of the LED. The options available were very expensive. and required a lot of complex hardware, lot of proprietary LED hardware and LED controllers. So we were looking for a solution which we could develop, co-develop actually, and like Gajendra said, which is efficient and simple, and works. Yeah. So we discussed, and Michael came up with this idea of actually developing this product, which is a multi-view, which is basically a reference for the crew, because you just need a reference. In production, you actually don't need super high quality for a multi-view. So we came up with this idea. And then, this partnership started actually about in June 2023. We actually dabbled, brainstormed quite a bit. And then, I think we closed the order in June 2023, last year. And the development started couple of months after that. So, it took about 7-8 months for us to come to a final solution.
That's a kind of great use case story that we like to talk about, because it's really a great one. Actually, now that we've seen that, I think you nicely, really kindly, you provided us with some behind the scene as well of the use of MoViewer in the production. I don't know, maybe we can show that. It's a very, very short video. So that's really widescreen.
So, yeah. This image, actually, this is a multi-viewer. So it is a 4-camera LED XR studio. One of these cameras currently is on air, while all the other 3 cameras are shown with a perspective of their own, which means that you can see, because in LED, there's a physical limitation, you can put only 1 camera input. However, this is a solution which is outside of LED, which is basically keying the signals which are getting all the cameras and putting tracking data along with it and getting all of this, this multi-view, this nice multi-view for the director who's sitting here actually to take the reference and cut.
And it could be as many cameras as you want, and
as many cameras,
with
absolutely.
no creative limits.
No, with no creative limits, absolutely.
Because we collaborate a lot with NVIDIA, on one side with the hardware, but also with the solution and with the development together. And like you said, Rahul, there's a big element of like AI involved as well when we are keying the presenters with that. And you really helped us, and we could really collaborate on optimizing this pipeline. Do you want to tell us a bit more about that, Guillaume?
I mean, so first, NVIDIA wouldn't be what we are without smart developers. It's all about providing technology, software development kit that any developer can take. So we wouldn't exist without smart developers and without partners, OEMs that are selling the hardware. So we're a fully indirect company. And then the second thing I wanted to say before even the partnership is it's great to obviously help software vendor and software developers, but it's even better when it's solving a problem. And so actually what's interesting in MoViewer is you mentioned no creativity lockdown, or I'm not sure how you said that, but essentially the fact you have an infinite number of camera, you are not constrained in any shutter time. You don't have to have heavy lighting. All of that is giving more freedom. It's not only, I think it's not only about the cost, it's about the freedom. Yeah. Like you could have 4 cameras all being shot and recorded with ghost frame, but then you can have an additional 20 camera and you can combine and you can decide and you have the full freedom. One has some constraints, but not every camera needs to be recorded. And at the same time, if you don't see the different cameras, then no way you're going to make the artistic decision about where you need to position the shot. So first solution is great. And then what we do at NVIDIA is just we help partners optimizing their pipeline. So essentially, it's always about the same thing. Optimizing and having the highest possible density. So when you look at a AI pipeline, you can have first an image buffer, and then it goes to multiple steps. So we're basically guiding, and we have profiling tools. So what we did was pretty simple. We guided your R&D and say, well, there are some hotspots that you could look at, and the more you put data into the GPU and the less you go back and forth with the CPU, the more efficient you're going to be. So it's just about optimizing and then delivering the right libraries for the fastest possible inference on the GPU. You can do inference on anything. Yeah. Our interest is to do live inference or the fastest possible inference to enable new use cases. And MoViewer is actually a great use case for that. If you infer in 100 milliseconds, or 200 milliseconds, you're not going to have the same experience. So that's why, I mean, it's for us, it's critical, and helping partners like Mo-Sys getting the best performance on the hardware. It makes total sense.
It's always a pleasure to work together, and it's always great when we have also a great use case. Like you said, it's really about the use case as well, right? Because that's where you get also feedback on the technology, and like sometimes things that applies for different, different sports, different events. Sometimes there's if we had this feature, it'd be really great, and that's usually like that. That we have new ideas, and that we optimize the best for the end user, ultimately.
Yeah.
So we did a lot of tests together, and then was used on multiple projects. But I think what we are really proud of is a World Cup as well, and I think that was 60 million viewers. On which is that correct?
I think, yeah, more than that, 77, I think so.
77,
I think so,
77 million.
not more than that. Yeah, but yeah, I think so. The World Cup, Cricket World Cup T20, it's a different format. It comes every 2 years. And there's always that urge, what can we do something differently? It's not the same old, the way like you see Super Bowl or any other event. There's always that need to do something different from a consumer experience point of view, from a production level. How can you make it more efficient? So, and glossy. What's that new experience, right? So, I think we started off because of the time constraint. Honestly, by the time we really got the testing, we couldn't hit IPL. We wanted to get it on the ICC World Cup. We've got it for one of our regional feeds. But the endeavor is not to stop there. The endeavor is actually to go beyond. We have multiple languages in India. So we want to go beyond and across all languages, and also beyond sports, and go towards entertainment also. So non-fiction gaming shows that we do, we want to take XR and MoViewer along with it and actually explore that part. Rahul is working on that angle. So it's not limited to sports production only. We want to take it beyond. That's the idea.
Well, talking about taking it, like going beyond, first I'll ask you, Guillaume, the question, and then I'll also ask you, like, what's next? But I was also thinking, like, because we are in here, for example, in 3D environments, typically, as have been, of course, we heard the word AI a lot these last few years, and that's maybe saturated. But like, how do you think we could use also generate content, like the content itself, with new ways of generating content? Is that something that you guys? I know that you also look a lot into that.
Yeah, I mean, so AI is just a mean to an end. So there are a lot of things going on around reconstructing 3D scenes, doing. There was complex technique in the past. Now I'm personally excited about Gaussian splat or NERF, neural radiance fields. So these are solutions. Historically, they started at research, training on a single GPU. We're starting seeing emerging technology where you can train the Gaussian splat on multiple GPU.
Yeah.
So eventually, my dream is you could do in a frame interval, you can do a live training of the feed. So you could record multiple camera and live train that, and then record all of that, replay that, and at the frame time being able to do in real time the Gaussian splat, move anywhere we want, play back and forth, but also move your camera movement anyway. So I think this kind of use case is not so much science fiction anymore. I mean, it's possible on still frame, and you need time to process. But what we're after is what can we do next, and what kind of real time use case can we do?
That's great. Looking forward to it. And then another thing, can you hear me? So that was more on the 3D content. And it seems like we already have a lot of questions, but we will open to Q&A after, I promise. About the workflow itself, I know that you're also doing a lot with 2110 these days, especially on the broadcast side of things. Maybe you can talk a bit about that as well.
Yeah, so 4 or 5 years ago, we acquired Mellanox, which is a networking company. And we have solution to accelerate uncompressed IP transport over the network. And the idea is the same as GPU, spare CPU count. You need CPU to run software. So, and it's better to run many software and decrease CPU count to just transfer data. So there is an acceleration layer and a technology called RiverMax that we can run on our networking card. And yeah, I think we're excited. I mean, beyond purely replacing SDI in an environment like live broadcasting, we've seen a big interest in virtual production. So we've been working with Epic to integrate native ST2110 into virtual production. And the interest, again, it's not so much about the technology, it's about the use case. So you start having machines that are connected on a network. You can get basically the inner frustum can be generated on a single render node and multicast to all the node. You can even have lower latency because you can decide you can broadcast that at twice the frame rate of the display. So you can get half a frame latency. And last but not least, I mean, you're in an environment with maybe at minimum 25 gigabit, maybe 100 gigabit network. Then when you load very heavy Unreal scene, it becomes instantaneous. So the overall experience becomes better. The cabling becomes simpler. And up to the display. So, ST2110 native display connection is today possible.
Yeah.
So it makes all that much easier and fully software defined as well, related to another platform that we're working on as software defined on the live broadcast. But we could mention afterwards, it's essentially moving what used to be appliance-based live broadcast to software defined on-prem on COTS hardware. And so we're seeing that could happen as well in virtual production. So you could definitely move all of these render node as containers and have a uniform infrastructure, centralized cluster, make things in a more efficient way, and add. The idea is always, what can you do more? So adding AI filters like MoViewer, or creating, generating content for your virtual production scene, and all of that in a cluster where you don't have to have one workstation here and the other there, and you spin up and down. Sometimes you're going to say, I'm going to do more MoView because I've got 30 cameras. Sometimes you do 2 cameras, but you actually need GPU power because your Unreal scene might be more complex. So it's pretty much you start deciding about how you use the hardware. So I think that's what we're after. Software defined. So we have a platform called Holoscan for media, which is meant, we announce production readiness at IBC.
Right.
But yeah, it could deploy any kind of software in the future.
And we're looking forward to collaborating on that as well, and to announce some great projects.
We did started on some. I mean, I'm not sure how much time we have, but we're working on connecting this platform with TimeCam. I'm not sure if you know TimeCam. So the idea was you have a remote camera and an operator. The operator can be anywhere. You need an artist that has the eye. He knows what he wants to shoot, and sometimes he can't just go on site. The camera could be robotically assisted. So TimeCam is just a smart technology where you can just take a crop of your image. So if you have an 8K camera, you can do a 4K crop and compensate the position crop. So, move the crop so that it compensates for the remote operator latency. So the operator could be remote. He wouldn't notice any latency. He has the actual mechanical gear. But we could, all of the robotics software could be running on the edge, and then transfer into a Holoscan for media cluster with 2110 in and out, or even SDI transceivers. Everything's possible, but it's kind of a cool use case that we're working on with Mo-Sys.
Yeah, we're looking forward to that. Maybe that's a project that for the next one that we can
sounds exciting.
use together, and I'll tell you more about it after. And then thanks, Guillaume. And to close, and then we'll have time for 1 or 2 questions. A bit tight on time. It's really interesting. I wish we chat more. On the Disney Star side, what's next? I'm sure you cannot say everything, but what's coming?
Yeah, Rahul?
Well, there's a lot of next actually, but especially with Mo-Sys, we are definitely trying to develop this product more with more features. Not only the MoViewer, we have a lot to do actually in the whole LED XR setup, and we are talking to them. So, hopefully next 6 months to a year, there'll be a completely new product.
And we'll be here to talk about it.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you, guys. As I said, we still have time for 1 or 2 questions. We had one here.
These are multi-locational anchors, which are there in different locations, and then you stitch it together using XR.
No,
NVIDIA.
as of now, these are not multi-location. These
Okay.
are
In one
cameras
studio.
in the same studio. Yes.
Can't you move towards multi-location and then you stitch it together? using XR. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
yes.
that-
Why not? Yes. Yes. Not right now, but yes, for sure.
So yeah, hybrid production, having
Yeah.
on-prem high quality, connected with compressed streams, multi-tenants, definitely the future.
Also, it has to be part of the narrative. Your content narrative has to blend with the technology. It just can't be a technology standalone and the narrative doesn't bind together.
No, but you can have, like you had Mithali Krishnan in Mithali, you had Mithali, right? The Indian captain in the
Mithali
studio.
Raj, yeah.
Mithali Raj, sorry. And then you've had other anchors, other hosts.
So we've done that, right? So we did teleportation of sorts. So
Yeah.
we've done Jacques Callis from South Africa and Steve Smith from Australia all merging into our studio in Mumbai. But that's not necessarily what we're talking about. That's more of a consumer experience. But what you're saying, it has to be a parallel dimension created in 3 locations where we stitch it together and it all comes out, so that the content narrative has to really stand out for it to work. Technically, I think we can do it.
Yeah. May
But-
not be the right LED XR case actually,
Correct. Yeah,
Okay.
it's not.
So-
to do that, but for sure.
Thank you.
We can chat after, but thank you guys for coming. It was
Thank
really a
you.
pleasure
Thank
to talk
you.
about our collaboration.
Thanks.
And then I think we have a appointment for next year to talk about the next project together, I think.
Yes.
All right.
For
Thanks,
sure.
guys. Thank you very much.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Thank
guys.
you.